Good day, ladies and gentlemen. How's everybody doing? Seems like you guys are not sure. How are you doing this morning? Okay, let's try that again. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So I need to use my teacher voice so that you guys respond like the good students that you are. Oh, good. Welcome to SANORD's Heritage Day Celebration. My name is Anna Chweni, and I work at the International Relations Office here at University of the Western Cape, and I'm going to be your MC for today. And if you go back after today's program and they'll ask you, what was your favorite thing about this event, tell them the MC, please. Oh, good. So before we get into the program, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the leadership of SANORD, the chairperson of SANORD, that is in the man, Dr. Laverne Samuels, in his absentia, the director of SANORD, Mr. Umesh Bawa, who's also the International Relations Director at UWC, and also to acknowledge the executive leadership of University of the Western Cape for the support that they give to the SANORD Central Office, as this is where the Central Office is stationed, and also to acknowledge all our delegates who are here today from different member institutions, and those that are connecting online. Are we streaming? I think so. So greetings to those that are also connecting online and to the house at large. Welcome to SANORD's Heritage Day. It doesn't end on the 24th of September. It continues up until whenever we want to take it. So we can have this event again. If you guys behave, I'll talk to Nicole. We can have another one in October, yeah? Oh, good. So before we get into the program, I would like to get a few things to you, a few house rules, just to make sure that we walk this journey together. I was gonna say I'm gonna be the driver of our program today, and after seeing the number of people that are here, I realized I don't have public, I can't drive all these people, so I'll just stick to being your MC. So a few of the house rules is that please keep your cell phones on silence or vibration mode, so just not to interfere with the running of the program. And also, they told me to tell you where the bathrooms are. So if you look on my right, which will be your left, I think, there's the exit door. If you go through the door and go over all the way to the right until you get to the other side, you'll see the bathrooms that other side. And also towards the end of today's program, we're going to have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions or any burning issues that you want to engage in, let's wait until the slot for question and answer comes, and then we can have that engagement. In a nutshell, just to give you guys a bit of a background on what SANORD is. So SANORD is a consortium of different institutions in the Southern Africa and the Nordic regions. They came together many years ago. I don't know what grade was I in. I think 2006, 2007, and look at here I am today talking about it. They came together to have a partnership, a consortium of some sort. When it started, it was only 7 institutions, and today we are sitting at 57 member institutions. So SANORD is growing strong, and if you've not attended any of our programs, I feel sorry for you. You should catch up and follow where things are going, because this is the place to be, and I'm glad you made the choice to join us today. We were at Norway just last week for the SANORD conference. It was beautiful. We had a great time, but I even have more greater news. University of the Western Cape will be hosting the SANORD conference next year. So I believe all of you are going to be there. Are you? Are you sure? They're going to take a picture of everyone here, and I'm going to look at the picture and check who said yes and they were not there. So I hope to see you guys next year. So moving to our program is going to run as it's set. And the first item, we have opening and official welcome by Dr. Iris Hu, who is the director of Confucius Institute here at UWC. Please help me welcome Dr. Iris Hu.
Thank you, Anna. My apologies for my voice. It's from the 3 weeks ago, my flu, but I think it's more sexy than my original one. Good morning, Prof Mariba and colleagues, students. My name is Aris. I work for the Confucius Institute and the International Relations Office at the University of Western Cape. And I am doing the opening and official welcoming on behalf of our director, Mr. Umesh Baba. So, ladies and gentlemen, and also our distinguished guests from other institutions, I stand before you today with a great pride and a profound sense of unity as we get together to celebrate a day that is deeply rooted in the heart and the soul of our nation, South Africa Heritage Day. This day is a testament to our rich tapestry of cultures, languages, and traditions that come together to form the vibrant mosaic that is South Africa. It is a day when we proudly embrace and celebrate our diversity, recognizing that our differences are what makes us unique and resilient as a nation. Heritage Day is a time for us to reflect on our history, honor our ancestors, and pay tribute to the countless individuals who have contributed to shaping our nation into what it is today. It is a day to acknowledge the struggles and the triumphs of the past and to draw inspiration from the resilience and the determination of those who fought for freedom and justice. As we gather here, let us remember that our heritage is not confined to history books or museum exhibits. It lives and breathes in our daily lives, in our languages, in our music, in our art, and in the stories we pass down through generations. Our heritage is a living legacy that connects us to our roots and guides us toward a future of unity, tolerance, and understanding. Today, we have an opportunity to savor the flavors of our diverse cuisines, listen to the melody of our varied music traditions, and also witness the vibrant colors of our clothes and artworks. It is a day when we come together to share our stories, to learn from one another, and to strengthen the bonds that unite us as South Africans. Heritage Day reminds us that we are all custodians of our national legacy. It is our duty to preserve and protect the heritage that has been entrusted to us, to pass it on to the generations that will follow. By embracing our heritage, we ensure that the value of respect, tolerance, and unity continue to guide our nation towards a brighter future. So as we celebrate South Africa Heritage Day today, let us do so with a heart full of gratitude, the minds open to learning, and arms open in friendship. Let us celebrate our diversity as our greatest strength and commit ourselves to building a nation where all its people can live in harmony and prosperity. I wish you all a joyous and meaningful South Africa Heritage Day. Thank you for joining us in celebrating the beautiful tapestry of our nation's heritage. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hu. That was beautiful. And just to tie back our celebration of Heritage Day in relation to SANORD, of what South Africa stands for today, or Southern Africa, as I'd mentioned earlier, that SANORD is a consortium of different countries in the Southern African region and the Nordic, is that SANORD is built on equity, reciprocity, and mutual respect. So it's a partnership that does not look at the South as recipients and does not look at the North as those that are in charge or controlling. We are all given an opportunity and a seat at the table, and that's what makes SANORD unique and a great organization to be part of, and the relevance of it, therefore, in celebrating our heritage as a country. We're going to move to the next item, of which I told you guys if they ask you what's your favorite thing, you'll say me. But for me, my favorite thing about the program, it's always the guest speaker, because we get to learn more about our history, the reason for our gathering together. The guest speaker is the one that will give us the lessons of life that we'll carry as we go back to our homes today. I'm going to introduce our guest speaker, and I'm going to give you guys a bit of a story about Prof Madidi Madiba. So my first language is Sepedi. We are celebrating our heritage, yeah? So my first language is Sepedi. So when I got here, everyone was pronouncing Prof Madidi Madiba's name a bit different. And I was wondering, is it Matiti Madiba? Like, what is her name? Because the name is familiar to me, because I thought this is Northern Sotho, you know? And I had to ask Prof, how do you pronounce your name? So she asked me to give you guys a lesson. It's Matiti. Can we try that together? Yes, so it's Prof Matiti Madiba. Prof Matiti Madiba is a member of the University of the Western Cape executive team, where she holds the position of Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Student Development and Support. She also holds the position of Associate Professor under the Faculty of Education, that is in Business and Science Education cluster. She was previously appointed as a Deputy Director, Education and Innovation, and thereafter Director, Student Affairs at University of Pretoria. Her research and development interests are in higher education transformation and innovation, including policy, curriculum development, student success, holistic student development, co-curricular design, student leadership development, and the use of technology in higher education. She has led innovative projects on curriculum mapping and analytics, student online elections and e-voting, and the development and implementation of mental health. She was part of the task team that led the writing of University of Pretoria's curriculum on transformation framework, and she chaired the UP's Institutional Transformation Committee, which was called ITC, for 3 years. She previously served as chair of Higher Education Learning and Teaching of Southern Africa. She recently received a leadership award for South African Association of Senior Student Affairs Professionals. I think that should get a clap. She currently serves as a guest editor to the Journal of Student Affairs in Africa, and previously as guest editor to South African Journal of Higher Education. She's also a research mentor and supervisor. She was the project leader for UP's Girl for Girls project, a mentoring and leadership project for young women aimed at promoting gender equity. She participated in Tuning Africa, a project of the African Union on the harmonization of degrees across the continent. She has collaborated with international partners across a number of universities, including the University of Maastricht in the Netherlands, university in Spain called Duosto, and the Open University in the UK, and New York University, where she has also done guest lecturing. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Professor Madidi Madiba.
Tawela. I'm trying to keep up. That's a Northern Sotho greeting. Good afternoon to all of you esteemed guests
and everyone in the audience. It is such a pleasure for me to join you in this way and to talk commemoration of our heritage. You know, this holiday that we have, and I guess we all love taking off, getting a day off, isn't it? There isn't one who can confess here that they don't like getting the day off. I find it, Heritage Day, to be a very curious holiday in South Africa, very interesting. And I had to go and dig a little bit and say, but how did we even get it, you know, as a holiday? Do you know that it was actually put forward as Shaka Day? Okay, I must declare my sources. Google, not ChatGPT as yet. Yeah, and it was part of the negotiations that we had as a country as we were trying to build ourselves into post-1994. And because of the negotiations, instead of sticking with Shaka Day, we then ended up with a compromise to have Heritage Day. So I find it to be a very curious holiday. And behind the dream at that stage was, this is one of those days that we must use to forge unity, and unity in diversity, which I find quite interesting. And I am convinced that there is far much more work that needs to be done for us to really get value or extract value out of a holiday like this. Yes, it's a day off, but what it carries should send us to places and places of work, places of digging, places where we should find ourselves uncovering who are we. If we are to talk about our heritage, I think that is a great opportunity to understand who we are, but to understand ourselves as a people or as people. And I know that our challenge is, as people, we don't do very well when it comes to difference, isn't it? Anything that is different makes us. And then we build our stereotypes and all the myths and whatever. But then we should, out of a day like this, or the whole concept of the Heritage Holiday in South Africa, we should understand that we need to equip ourselves and challenge ourselves, intellectually and otherwise, to understand who we are as people. And understanding ourselves as people also means understanding difference, our differences. When you see a person who's different from you, bear in mind, it is a person. And because of our deep heritage around the concept of Ubuntu, when you see that different person, you must understand that you're seeing a version of yourself. That is what Botu is all about. In my language, Ubuntu is Botu. It's not just about being compassionate and being nice to other people. It is a deep philosophy of understanding that I am because you are. And if I am because you are, even your difference, even if you don't look like me, that's me. That is what Botu is, because we share something in common and something so deep as being a people. And if we start to look at diversity and difference in that way, that your difference is actually a version of me in another way, because you are, or I am because you are. And I think we need to dig a little bit more, and we should indeed help ourselves to understand difference better. But okay, we talk heritage. And for sure, when we talk heritage, we are talking the different languages, and she has given you a little bit of a taste. And the other story is when I first landed here, coming from that part of the country, when people around here see my surname, they literally refuse to talk to me in English. They don't understand what my problem is if I insist on talking in English, because they don't understand why, as a Madiba, I don't use the language of this place. And of course, that is part of my work. I really need to up my game. And I'm so thankful to all the digital resources that are now available to help me dig into the language that I'm supposed to master and learn it very fast. I'm trying to do my part, my homework in equipping myself. Just give me time. But indeed, part of our heritage is celebrating our languages, our different languages. I am so envious that now for South Africa, it is only isiZulu and isiXhosa that are in a number of digital applications for language learning. These are the only two languages that are already part of the digital infrastructure of helping whoever is interested in learning the languages. But we have, how many official languages in South Africa? 12. And only 2 are now inside the digital infrastructure for learning. So that is part of the work that we have. And I believe that universities are the places where this type of work has to happen, to make sure that all our other, I'm not talking about English and Afrikaans, okay, because they've enjoyed privilege for a long while. I'm talking about, out of the 12, all the other languages that have been marginalized. We now have isiZulu and isiXhosa in the digital infrastructure. So we need to make sure that the other, that's -4 out of 12, help me with arithmetic. The other 8 also enjoy their digital presence inside this infrastructure that we have. And if you tell me that unemployment is high, this is the type of work that you should be doing. And because of the digital highway that we have, I believe that you can find your space and do a lot of work. I've told you that I'm learning the language that I'm supposed to be mastering. And I was telling her that I'm so impressed about the number of resources that I find, even on YouTube, to help me with the pronunciation, with the culture behind, with the vocabulary, with the grammar, pronunciation and everything else. And I think that those who are taking the advantage of placing their languages into this digital highway that we have deserve a great applaud. But it is an opportunity that we'll have. Part of our heritage is definitely our language. It is also, about our attire. That's why I tried to put a duke. But this is a very shallow representation of, the especially my heritage when it comes to attire. But that is also part of the heritage that we have. And besides the language and the attire, we talk culture, we talk different cultures, and we know there is just so much behind that. And we can go on and list many other issues that we should be putting into this package of heritage. But in all of this, including even our, knowledges about not just culture, but our overall lives, I believe that universities have a great role to play in researching our heritage. And it's not only in terms of just helping to put maybe our languages on the digital highway or digital infrastructure, but it is also making sure that when you capture a language, you don't just preserve it. You preserve the knowledge that comes with it. It's a pity that we talk about indigenous knowledge systems. And I think that creates a kind of a stereotype. We should be talking maybe about indigenous sciences. And I believe when we do a good job in making sure that we valorize the marginalized languages, especially in South Africa, it helps us with the languages, we capture the culture. But with the culture, we also capture the knowledge and the science that live inside a language, which means if we do not do a good job in valorizing these marginalized languages, we are missing out as people. And you mustn't think, if you speak languages that have enjoyed advantage, you mustn't think, okay, it is just the laws of the Bedis and the Northern Sotho speakers and the Tswanas because their languages are still marginalized. It is really the laws of the science that we as a people have. Just think about the Khoisan or the Khoisan people. There is so much science that we are abandoning, we are neglecting in not taking you know, their knowledge systems seriously. I know that UWC is amongst those universities that are doing some research work, you know, with the COISA. We need to do far much more because it is our laws. We mustn't just think that it belongs to that group. It is our laws as a people to ignore not just the indigenous knowledge, I want to reiterate, but the indigenous sciences that live inside these marginalized cultures. And I'm saying language is one way of, you know, uncovering and digging out these knowledges and sciences that live inside our languages. So we have a lot of work to do. I want to share with you a little experience that I have. I have a sister who, in her previous life, because she has evolved, was a Northern Sotho teacher in a rural high school in Limpopo. And, you know, as our education system was going through a lot of its challenges, she got so much bored, like many other teachers, and she wanted to have her teaching be different. And fortunately, at that stage, she did a course, a postgraduate certificate on OBE, for those who are in the education space. That's outcomes-based education. And she ended up exploring new ways of teaching. So one of the things that she did was to teach vocabulary, spelling, writing, you know, teach the language, which was not even respected by the language speakers themselves. They felt they just want it on their matric certificate, but, you know, after that, this is not what they want to learn. They want to go after, you know, more powerful stuff that can help them navigate the economic challenges that lie ahead into their future as adults. But she had to find ways of teaching the language. So one of the projects that she did was to say to her students, a matric class, go and ask your folks, especially older folks, the stuff that they used to eat, which are no longer part of your diet today. And try to gather as much information as you have. And they had to do this in groups and organize themselves and come to class and do presentations. When I heard of the story, I said, okay, this is what research is all about. And we published a research article, the two of us. But what was interesting was, out of these extinguished diets that the oldies in the village talked about, there was so much science that was just dying off with these old people who were about to, you know, leave this world. And we uncovered just a little bit, and it gave me a taste of the danger of ignoring our sciences, of not doing enough in digging into our heritage. You know, one of the things that we discovered was a diet that was prepared for people who had to go for long distances and also soldiers. And the philosophy is, when you go on a long trip, you cannot travel with your fridge, especially at that stage. Fridges were even unheard of. So you cannot, preservation of the food that has to sustain you on your way, you really needed good science to get that right. But there were some grains and nuts that they were able to grind and package in such a way that you could keep the stuff for a long while. But that was a combination of nutrients that could sustain you for life and give you the energy that you need. And tied to that, there was a proverb that erupted out of that understanding that when you have this stuff, you must make sure that in your journey, you always trace rivulets, and these are dry areas. You must walk along places where you're going to find water, because the stuff that you're going to eat to sustain you was going to make you very thirsty. And as you drink the water, it helps with metabolism, and the nutrients replaces everything of the best that you can ever need. But when you look at that substance, it is one of the things that could solve dietary complications today, including obesity and all of the challenges that we have. And instead of just, you know, these other cheap and sometimes fake and dangerous dietary stuff that we get, these are some of the things that we could be now bringing into, you know, our production to help ourselves sustain our health and sustain it in a more healthier way. And that just opened my eyes in terms of what we are missing out when we neglect our heritages and when we look down on this form of sciences. But we need a lot of you, especially students, to go and uncover these hidden knowledges. And unfortunately, the people who have the knowledge are passing away, so we are losing out on where the knowledge is stored. And because of that, I think we are losing our heritage a lot. So we need to be finding better ways of digging into our heritage, not just in the sense of history, understanding where we come from, where we lived, and all of that, but understanding the sciences that are hidden inside our heritages. And I believe digging into our languages is just one way of doing it. I still believe that when it comes to language learning, language studies, language research, there are many other areas that we have not even discovered. I saw a post on the UWC website from the Dean of the Arts announcing that they have just created a new study area, the intersection of language forensics, language and law as a new area. I believe there are far much more, many other areas that we still need to discover out of our languages, especially the marginalized languages. And my message is, when we neglect marginalized languages in South Africa, when we do not pay the price of valorizing them, when we do not take them seriously in our universities and grow them, we deny ourselves as a people. We deny ourselves knowledge. We deny ourselves science that could give us quantum leaps into the many other challenges that we are facing. And I want to challenge each one of you to really think of paying your contribution. When it comes to valorizing, especially marginalized languages, we just need activists, to be honest. We need people who are prepared to pay the price to do this work. And for these two languages, isiXhosa and isiZulu, we've had a lot of activism, but also scholarly work that has helped to take the languages where they are. We need more work into all the other languages. And the more we do that, the more we are going to enjoy the neglected knowledges and sciences that are hidden inside our languages. So we neglect these languages at our own peril. We know that, of course, with the colonizers, we end up suffering stunted growth in terms of our sciences, our indigenous knowledge systems and our sciences, because we were made to turn our backs against our knowledges and to chase after the knowledge systems of the colonizers. But we have now entered this era where I believe decoloniality is a serious discourse in our universities. And alongside that, we must look for these interesting intersections. Valorizing our languages should be taken as an active part of going the decolonial turn. And as we do that, this is not just cheap stuff. This is not just burdening ourselves with diversity and trying to accommodate many other languages. It is really about affording ourselves an opportunity to dig into our heritages inside these languages and to uncover the kind of sciences that we are likely not to if we continue to neglect what these languages carry. So as we talk decoloniality in our studies, we must find, language as an area where we should be doing our digging, like mining out the knowledges that are hidden inside our languages. I'm always interested in the absent vocabularies in my language because they indicate something else, as much as I'm also interested in the vocabularies that are existent in my language and that I do not find in other languages. You know, when you want to translate something and you're struggling to find a perfect equivalent, that's very interesting tension, because it also opens up many other avenues for, if you explore, for many other hidden knowledges and sciences that are hidden inside those type of tensions. And my message today is we need to be more serious about our heritages and our heritage together as a people. We live in a global village. The world is growing smaller and smaller. And we know that even travel is far much more easier than before. And because we are in this global village, we mustn't fool ourselves that the more the globe shrinks, we must also shrink our heritage and discard some of the areas where our heritages are hosted or are hidden. We mustn't, fool ourselves that shrinking our knowledges, oh, my tongue is twisting. Okay, shrinking what we know is going to help us to have a better global citizenry. Actually, that is really limiting who we are. It is limiting our Botu, our Ubuntu. We are not going to enjoy to the full this essence of being if we end up just having maybe English and 3 more powerful languages as our lingua francas, and then neglecting all the other varieties of languages that we have across the globe. If we do that, we are definitely limiting our being, our Botu, our Ubuntu, and we will end up being limited in how we continue to face the challenges that lay ahead, not just the challenges that we've already experienced in the past. The future, as it comes, will continue to throw bombshells around, your COVID-19 and many other challenges and the natural disasters that, many others are experiencing will continue to be there. So we need to up our game in terms of how we sustain our being, our Ubuntu, our Botu. And we know that that sustenance and sustainability does not just rely in limited knowledge, because to even talk about sustaining the earth as we have it and to help the coming generations have at least a better version of what, the wasted version of it, how to help the coming generation to have something to live on. We know it takes a lot of work. And I believe that part of the knowledge to know how to do the sustaining lies in our heritages if we dig deep. So there are still many other research areas that are waiting for those who are willing to pay the price of being scholarly. There are many other research topics, research areas to be dug into, many masters and honors, masters and PhD theses that have to come out of our own heritage. So if you are, struggling with a topic in whatever area that you are, you must know that your heritage is there for you to dig into. And you will, if you pay the price, enjoy being one of those people who've really dug these gems out of our heritages. May we grow to take our heritages seriously and know that it is not just about bragging and a day off. There is actually some deep-seated knowledges and science, even sciences in their varieties, that lie inside our heritage and our heritages. And if we do not pay the price to dig out, we are just limiting the resources that we could be enjoying in order to carve out our future. May we do the work that needs to be done and acknowledge that our cultures in their diversity carry a lot, and we mustn't pay some kind of shallow service to them. We must understand that even in our geographic distribution, there are sciences and knowledges that have accumulated in terms of the lands and the places that we have lived through and have enjoyed. We in South Africa, we talk about human rights, we talk about land rights. And I believe as we do that, and we understand that intersection of human rights, land rights with our heritage, and we do some scholarly work around it, we are definitely going to discover more of how to coexist as people, and we can take our understanding of Ubuntu to the next level. You know, Ubuntu is now understood, of course, by some educationists and scholars, to be one of the graduate attributes that we should be pursuing. And I am convinced that it should be. So if you graduate from UWC, I want to argue you must graduate with a deeper understanding of Ubuntu. And that is a deeper understanding of yourself and the people that you have to coexist with. And we need to build it into our curriculum more than we've ever done. And the value of doing that is that the more we understand Botu and Ubuntu that we all possess, the more we will, I believe, be kinder to each other and be kinder to the existing resources and look out for better resources for sustainability in a kinder way, not to be driven by greed and all those other things that we know have been very destructive to our environment. So yes, there is a lot of work, and there is a lot of collaboration work that we have to do in digging into our heritages in order to dig out the knowledges that are hidden inside our heritages. And talking about collaboration, of late there is big talk around transdisciplinary, multidisciplinary research, and I think that is where education is going. Instead of just being narrow and looking into your subject area, you are being challenged to think about the problems that we have in the world through transdisciplinary and multidisciplinary lenses and views. And I believe that digging into our heritages will also enable us to talk transdisciplinary research and multidisciplinary research more than we've ever done before. So as you continue to explore, for those who are studying your postgraduate studies, you have a whole red carpet laid out before you in terms of digging into our heritages for more knowledge, for extending what we already know. And I am convinced there is just so much. If we do not dig, it is at our own peril. We are just limiting our being as people and limiting our understanding of how we can deal with the challenges that face us. And may we do our part, each one of us, of digging into our heritages, including our languages, to make this world a better world. Thank you so much.
Okay, I know you can do better than that. Can we give Prof? Wow, thank you so much, Prof. I was in my feelings, you know, just sitting there listening to you, and I'm thinking, wow, this is really thought-provoking, you know. I would ask myself sometimes if a lot of African countries were never colonized, and the people that were there originally, the culture, the language, was given the privilege to show itself and express itself, how would that be like? I always wondered, and I'm going to give you guys the same thought. Just sit down and think about it. Don't think Wakanda forever. Just go back to your heritage, and those that are still, then ask them, if there was never this infiltration in who we are as a people, where would we be today? But the good thing is that education has given us a platform to be able to bring back what was lost over the years. And I think as Prof has challenged us now to say those that are still studying, this might be areas you may consider looking into, because we do need that knowledge. It's important for our future. UWC would say looking back, looking forward. That's exactly the step I think we should take going forward. And on the issue of language, I must say, when we attended the SANORD conference in Hammer, Norway, there were a lot of people from South Africa and other Southern African countries, and also from the Nordic. So what happens with SANORD's annual conference, it interchanges. 1 year it's hosted in the north, the other year is hosted in the south. So this year it was in the north. And then I met one of the colleagues from Zambia. So the beautiful thing about it as well is that it's not just about engagement and collaboration amongst the South and the North. There's a lot of cultural exchanges and lessons that occur between the North and the North, the South and the South, and also within institutions in South Africa as well. So I met a gentleman from Zambia, and I realized that all my life, I knew of certain countries in the SADC region, but I never took time to research, to know more about those countries, to know more about the people. It took me meeting him to now go on Google, my source as well, to find out about Zambia. And I learned something interesting about the language, that they have a language called Lozi, L-O-Z-I. And I remember seeing a video on YouTube of a young lady who was sharing her makeup tutorials, and she was using her native language, Lozi. And when I listened to that language, I could understand part of the words she was saying, because there's a language, a dialect, well, they call it a dialect because we know in our country languages don't enjoy equal attention. So a dialect of Northern Sotho called Silobedu. When that lady was sharing her makeup tutorial, she was speaking Lozi, but I could hear it sounded like Slobedu. And part of the words she was saying sounded like Northern Sotho. And I thought, this person is in Zambia. So if we start the digging, we might find that there's actually more that unites us than divides us. And it's beautiful that in our diversity, we are able to chart the course of the future of our country. Okay, I'm not the guest speaker. Let's move to the next item. Thank you so. Hello? Okay, we're back. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Hardy. Wow. Next time, I'm sure I'll see one of y'all's pictures up there that you did something, yeah? It was interesting to learn. I think what we can take from that is that, as Prophet said, the world is becoming more interconnected, is that there's so much we can do. I'm sure if we all go back and try to find out what has been part of our heritage as a people, and we come back together and work together, there's more things that we can invent and take Africa forward as a continent. We are grateful for those that have started the process and given us a step of hope and inspiration to say, maybe Africans are not what the world was trying to tell us all along, that you as Africans, you belong at the bottom of the table. But now we have a seat at the table, and it's also our responsibility to insist on a seat at the table. When we engage with different people, different partnerships, we must be able to stand our ground and understand who we are as a people and what we bring forward. We are not all about on the receiving end. The world should understand that it's time they stop doing things for Africa, but do things with Africa, because we are also part of the way forward for the world, because we belong into this world. We are not just a speck in the earth. We are a very big part of it. I mean, Africa has the biggest population of young people, and you guys are part of that population. What would the next 10, 20, 30 years be like, you know? So I also challenge you that when you live here, go and learn about the African Union, go and learn about the African countries, go and learn about the world. Go and learn and understand more about the position you hold and the power that you hold from where you are sitting. It doesn't matter if you come from a small village or a township somewhere in South Africa or somewhere in Morocco. You have that effort. I mean, look, now we are learning about great Africans that have impacted and changed the world, you know. So thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. There's been so much information coming in. And I know you guys are sponges. You're just taking everything in. Eh? But just to get you relaxed a bit, we're going to move to the entertainment item. And please help me welcome the UWC choir. Please clap for them until they get here. Okay, I think I need a tissue because I almost cried, yo. Like, it's that deep. Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause once more. Wow, that was really beautiful. Imagine if we could have that every day. I mean, you look at our current media, like Prof was saying, a lot of things that enjoy attention, you know, on the internet and technology. You don't get by such on a day-to-day, but I can imagine if this was available for everyone to know and learn about the different music and culture and how beautiful they looked. That's the direction we should chant forward to say, we would love to see more of this. You know, I could imagine how sad it would be wanting to teach kids in the next few years to come and there's nothing online or in the information systems around our culture, around music and whatnot. So this was really inspiring and beautiful. Thank you guys so much. So we are going to move a bit quickly. We're a bit out of time as per our program. We're going to move to the panel discussion now. I'm going to call upon the moderator and he will introduce and call upon the panelists. The next item, which is the panel, will be moderated by Mr. Dingani Boy. Mr. Dingani is a higher education internationalization practitioner, currently the International Relations Officer in the Strategic Initiatives and Partnerships Directorate at Cape Peninsula University of Technology. He holds the following qualifications from Rhodes Universities. He has a Bachelor of Arts in International and Political Studies and Organizational Psychology and a postgraduate diploma in Enterprise Management through the globally recognized AMBA accredited Rhodes Business School. His professional areas of interest are internationalization, leadership, and youth development. He is certified in conflict resolution, negotiation, and mediation for South African youth through the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, further holding a certificate as a safety, health, and environmental representative in South Africa. So you all must feel safe. Mr. Boy is here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's welcome Mr. Dingani Boy.
Thank you very much to our MC, and it's always nice coming after the entertainment item. So everyone's refreshed and our minds are back and running. Mine is really easy today. I've been trusted with a short period of time to just facilitate a discussion or conversation centered around our central theme, looking at the fact that because of the tarnished history and the past of South Africa, heritage is often associated with negativity. So us within academia, what do we now do to rectify this issue? As Prof Madiba said, Butu, it's the idea that I am because you are, but at a deeper level, it's also looking at the differences as part of who you are and those internal contradictions. So I think with our panelists today, we'll start to grapple with real and meaningful ways on engaging how then do we charter this new territory. I'm going to ask the first panelist, which is Shavin van Roy, who holds a bachelor's degree in linguistics and politics from the University of the Western Cape, went on to complete an honors and a master's in a very interesting focus area, and bear with me here. It is on a subset of grammatical properties of GOPS, which is an understudied language variant spoken predominantly in the Cape Flats in the Western Cape. He is also the recipient of the NRF NAFIC PhD scholarship and is currently doing a joint PhD between UWC and Utrecht University in the Netherlands. Please take a seat. Thank you. Our next panelist is Ms. Lolwethu Luthuli, who is also a PhD candidate in Information and Communication Technology. She currently holds the position of lecturer at the Department of Internal Auditing and Financial Information Systems at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. In her role, she specializes in the field of internal auditing and business computer applications. Ms. Luthuli is also the acting IT coordinator for the Faculty of Business and Management Science, where her experience contributes to the effective management of information system technology resources. This all becomes extremely important in packaging the information that we've received today and looking at how we are going to leverage technology in preserving and maintaining our heritage, and also with new and groundbreaking work around languaging and linguistics and what that means in terms of preserving heritage. I would like Mr. Luthuli to come take the seat. Thank you. I think it's going to be easier if we take it from here. So just to go through the format is quite easy. I'm going to ask a probing question to our panelists that they have had access to prior, that speaks to the central themes that we have spoken about here today, and that address some meaningful recommendations in terms of how we can practically work towards the preservation of our heritage and the development thereof. I think the first question is centered around academia and effectively bridging the gap between indigenous or local knowledge systems. As Prof said, we need to start also talking about them as sciences. And yes, so the knowledge systems and formal, or what is recognized as formal academic research, to ensure that traditional wisdom is integrated and respected within the discourse around heritage preservation. I think, Ms. Luthuli, I'm going to start with you.
So much pleasure. I was hoping, I'm not sure if it's on. Okay. Molweni, ninjani, and I will greet you in my language because I'm Xhosa, and it's quite important that I greet you in that language because, like Prof was saying, Xhosa is starting to take place or its existence within society, but it was never an easy thing. You know, there's some people that had to do the work for Xhosa to be recognized, even though it's one of the dominant language within South Africa. But, you know, thank you very much, Nicole, for inviting us to this conversation, as heritage and culture is one of the things that I'm very passionate about, particularly because it's one of the things that as we grow older, it's something that we're starting to treat as an option. You know, someone said to me yesterday that, you know what, this generation sees as an option, the next sees as unnecessary, like there's no need for it. And because of that, I guess, then the question that you are asking us, what is our role as academians in preserving that? And sometimes when we think about heritage and how it has been in South Africa per se, it is something that was passed through generation to generation. It was never something that we recorded it down, you know. It's that time when you sit with your grandmother in the kitchen and she's telling you the history of where does the Luthuli clan comes from. And in the sadness of it is that as the generation started to take place and come to existence, we now have the generation X and the generation Y and A who sometimes experience trauma around culture and heritage and tradition, and then they tint it down, unfortunately. And now you have one family that says, I don't practice this anymore because it has trauma, it has pushed me to this angle. That means that they don't even share that with their generation. So what does our role as academians in preserving that? And fortunately for me, I'm in the space of IT. And I think when we think about preserving, we think, okay, I need to write an article, you know, and it's gonna sit there in the archives, and someone who has interest years to come can decide to read about it. But what we've seen with this generation is that it has no time to read. Prof, you can attest to this. You know, you give them a homework and someone is not even interested in reading the textbook that they need to pass. So what we then do is we use what people are affected and are used to, like the use of TikTok. I don't know how many of us are in TikTok in this room. Maybe you can share by raising hands. How many of us were actually intrigued about the songs that were sang in TikTok around our own cultures and our own heritage? And I'm sure some of us started wanting to go buy umbhaco and all those other things because we could see it was happening. So I think perhaps we as academians need to stop treating it as an old history that for me to preserve what I have, I need to write an article about it and it sits there. But it's also about how do I take that article and transfer it as part of education, as part of discussion. And in that sense is maybe academians need to start having those research, like Prof was saying, with their students.
Let the students go find out, and then let us write an article together. Now you have a class full of 58 people that have preserved what the discussion will be. But now they're not only talking about it in the classroom, but they are taking it home as well to their families. You know, Mom, I even discovered a very interesting thing. Those that are closer would know the name Mfazi, right? And for the longest time, you know, I'm doing Mfazi Gabanban, you know, it's something we take pride in, you know, and we call ourselves Mfazi. But when I was doing my research in the industry, they said, no, actually, Mfazi comes from the word, 2 words, which is Ufa Eyazi, right? Which means they die with secrets. That's what women do, right? And we take pride in saying, I want to be Umfazi Gazbanbani, but we don't even know what that name or word is, you know. So even as academias, that's something we start educating where it comes from, right? I'm not sure if I've touched, but I think it comes from that. It comes from not expecting it to be an article, but have it as part of conversation in our daily lives and so on.
Okay, thank you very much. That's actually quite interesting. And since we've got a linguist in the house, it's only natural to go on to the next question, which will be looking at strategies, right? So what can we as academics do to foster a sense of responsibility and engagement with our heritage preservation? And not only at a national level, but within our local communities to ensure that these Heritage Day, not Heritage Day, but heritage initiatives rather, are inclusive and mutually beneficial. I think I want you to locate it within your niche area, right? You deal specifically with a what is the correct term for it? But you deal with a language that is specialized or specialist in nature, and it's not as predominant as, let's say, Afrikaans or Xhosa or Sizulu. So what type of strategy should we be using to make sure that exactly what you're doing is mainstreamed?
Thank you very much. All right, so I think this is a very complex question, and I think we need to take some time to unpack exactly what it is that you asked. And I think what Prof Madiba mentioned is the notion of taking our heritages as different sciences as a starting point. And if you look at other sciences, let's talk about your chemistry and your other sciences, biology, they receive rigorous attention and input from the researchers. And that same input and that same effort that is put in for other sciences need to be put into our social sciences. Because I think it is common knowledge or shared knowledge that if you look at the social sciences versus the physical sciences or the more natural sciences, we are not on the same, we do not receive the same, if I can put it in layman's terms, respect as the natural sciences. So once we have identified, or once we've grappled with the fact that we need to take these social sciences as rigorously as we handle other sciences, I think we're off to a good start. The other more practical strategy that we need to employ as academics is that we need to understand that our research has to be people-centered. So if we are going into communities, local communities, we need to understand that the people need to drive the research. We are just there to ensure that everything is running properly, etc., and we're coming with our expertise, but the people need to ultimately give the input. And we need to respect their cultures. We should not go in with our biases, etc., but we should go into these communities and say, I, in fact, am here to learn from you, not the other way around. So literally going to these communities and hearing what the people have to say. Because what we need to remember about many of our African cultures is that they are oral in nature. As my fellow panelists said, is that it's the stories passed down from your grandparents and your parents, etc. So these things are not written in books. So we need to go and we need to sit at their feet and receive the wisdom that they have and document these things. So this is what I do with CAPS. CAPS is not, just a point of correction, is not a specialized language. It's just a language variety that has not received much attention. It's marginalized, if we want to use that terminology. So what I do is I go and spend time in the community with the people who speak the language, but I don't just focus on the language that the people speak, but I also look at the way in which they live, how they get on with their day-to-day living. For example, I conducted my study in Manenberg, or one of my studies in Manenberg. And Manenberg is an area that was created during the apartheid era under the Group Areas Act. And the people were all put together in these flats. And one thing that they needed to do was they needed to share washing lines. And this is something that you might think is very trivial. But it takes a particular character to be able to share a washing line with your neighbor on a daily basis when you need to do washing. And so these people were, number one, they were split from their families and they were put with total strangers, and these people had to become their family members, and they learned how to cope with one another and how to get along with one another. And I think this is also it speaks to our resilience as a people. So we go into the field, we want to focus on something such as a linguistic property, but we can learn so much more if we open up our minds and open up our research frameworks to receive from what is actually happening on the ground. Thank you.
Fantastic. I think to follow the natural train that we're currently on, I'm going to ask Mr. Tuli to engage us on, I think, something that's come up here, which is the idea of documenting, right? But documenting does not necessarily just mean like physical research, articles and dissertations and things of that nature. How do you think we can better leverage technology in terms of heritage preservation in our context?
Okay, I think it's on. Thank you so much. I think just niching on what my fellow panelists were speaking about, somehow, and this is what the sadness about preserving heritage comes and culture comes in, is that in the current media field, it's shown as a, something bad. For you to want to say, I want to perform my heritage ritual culture performance. What media then preserve or shows us is that this is health issues, this is the danger of it, And I think this is what has caused a lot of communities to not be open to share their stories. Because, you get excited that someone is going to write a story about what you guys have been practicing. And then all of a sudden you are already there in your TV and you are only seeing about, we have discovered a group of people that stays Kutsolo in Eastern Cape. And in your brain, you're like, but these people, like our fellow presenter was saying, have been here for thousands and thousands of years. So it's not a discovery. It's just that you were allowed to the community to actually see what and how they live. Like he says, it's not just the language, it's how they treat each other, it's how they engage each other. So I think that's the downfall of technology, is that instead somehow it has that capacity or that ability of making it seem as if it's a negative practice that is happening. And that's why if you go to communities now, they'll be like, no, it's busy. We're not there and we're not going to assist you because we have been hurt so much. So I think somehow what this new technology that has done, and that's also a bit of what we are doing as part of research, is there is some cultures or some part in Africa that we don't even know they exist. And if you think even about giving birth, Prof Madiba would also say, it's not something that our parents had to go to school for. They could naturally allow a woman that has a breech to be able to help that woman deliver a baby. So, however, even with that, it has now been commercialized. If someone comes in with the research, they're not there for the idea of preserving. They are there on how can I make this something that I'm known and I'm called in conference to speak about. So if we think about the use of technology, it's allowing the humans or the people that are doing it to actually participate in it. So how do we make it accessible? How do we make it controllable? And how do we make it something that we need to rewrite the history of it? So like I was mentioning earlier, a few weeks ago, my friends somehow in academia feel like TikTok is the way because that's where our students are. And they started making use of TikTok to upload videos about their lectures and all those stuff. Perhaps even if we use those niche sites that people are in to actually start sharing materials that speak to our culture. So if we're doing research as academias, we upload it into a form that is easy accessible. No one has time to read 15 pages, I guess only for professors and ourselves, because we're stuck to read those. But I want to understand what you're saying in 2 minutes. If it's not in 2 minutes, my attention is gone. So how do we integrate that, but also respect the people we're getting the information from, because that's a huge part. And it's this archive is sitting with our professors. Please, when she leaves today, please speak to her so that you can get something out of her as well. But these things are sitting with our grandparents. So taking that and telling it your own way, it is something maybe that we need to infect and use as well. But technology is now very advanced, so the use of that means that we must make it innovative, make it much funner and much educational in itself. So I think that's how we can use it. But Africans need to start telling their own story. This idea of, okay, it's going to go down generation to generation, it exists, it's good. But we can see that it's no longer working. So how do we write books? How do we write stories? But how do we give ownership to them instead of us? Because that's where the problem is. I go write a story, it becomes mine, not the community that I'm assisting. So how do we use and integrate and help that part? It is then the use of all these advanced technologies that we have as well. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. So before I invite everyone into the conversation, just to pick up on something that kind of ran throughout all of the engagements, is we need to start looking at people-driven, people-centered, have a respect for these sciences, and transform the knowledge into a consumable form for the modern day age and the consumer that we're looking at. And looking at matters of accessibility, is it worthwhile for knowledge to be sitting in archives that never is accessed when there is alternative consumption methods such as TikTok, such as YouTube, such as other platforms where we find the majority of the youth of South Africa is, and Africa generally speaking. So now I'm going to put out 2 questions to the audience that would like to engage on, and please feel free, just raise your hand and give an input, or you can answer the question in terms of what you feel and your perspective on it. And the first one is, what does heritage actually mean to you? What does this concept of heritage mean to you as an individual? You don't have to be a scholar, but just as a person, what does it mean? And for days like this when we celebrate, is it just a bright day with your family and friends? Is it just a public holiday, or does it have a deeper meaning? And what would that look like? Then the second one is, what kind of heritage do we want to leave behind? We will become that generation that holds knowledges in our heads if we don't obviously do the things we said we were going to do today. But for the generations to come, what type of heritage would we want to leave behind? Is it one of inequality? Is it one of corruption? Is it an education system that is geared towards the elite? If not, what does that look like? So I'm going to open it up to the floor now to engage us, and you can just raise your hand and then we'll engage from that point. Okay, I see the first hand. I'm wondering, can we get a mic to here? Okay, so the first hand's at the back and then the second hand is here in front. We'll start the question at the back and then the third one is here, I can see. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Begitemba Mafu. I can answer the first question. The second one, I can't really answer it. In terms of me, when I look at the word heritage, I think I'm in finance. So in finance, we deal with money. So when you talk about heritage, I think of the word inherit. Sorry. I think of, sorry, apologies. I think of like your trust fund babies, you're inheriting something. So now in terms of culture, you're inheriting the cultural background from where you come from. You're inheriting the responsibilities of that culture, the roles of that culture, of how to behave in society, how to speak to women, how to speak to children, how to do certain things. That's what you're inheriting. You're given that background. So you're not just going to be some human thrown in on earth with no background or no knowledge. You're given already with knowledge of your past, knowing that, okay, this is, if you're a vendor, you're a vendor. This is how vendors behave. This is how a vendor man dictates. This is what you eat masonja, you eat pap, those type of things. So that's what I would say heritage means to me. It's an inheritance. So now it's mostly like an inheritance of culture or inheritance of information. That's what I would say from my point. Thank you.
Fantastic. There was a second hand in front.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. My name is Pokwane Benalzain. To answer what heritage means to me, I would say I think heritage is the freedom of expression. And the fact that as right now I'm standing here and where at this time it's actually expressing how different people, how we've grown as Africans, how we've grown as people to actually have pride in ourselves. And growing up, I used to, from primary to high school, all my life, we've always celebrated the day, Heritage Day is a day whereby we come wearing different kinds of clothes to express our cultures, to talk about who we are, expressing how we are, how we do things, our music, the food that we eat, like he said. And I think heritage is just a freedom of expression, where we come as people and combine to show that we've grown and we are at a point whereby we are free of expressing ourselves and telling who we are. We are okay with other people learning who we are. We are okay with other people doing the things that we see are ours. Like, for example, if you notice nowadays, we all wear Xhosa attire on Heritage Day. And it's actually nice that the Xhosa people are okay with us wearing our clothes. We are okay with expressing ourselves as Xhosa people because they are not Xhosa people, we are Xhosa people. They are not blacks, we are blacks. They are not whites, we are people. Like, freedom is just freedom of expression. And to answer the second question, I certainly do not know how to put it because I do not understand what kind of heritage we're gonna leave for our future generations. Because as we are sitting here right now, I feel like most of us are very confused. We ourselves do not have heritage. So what kind of heritage are we leaving if we do not have one ourselves? We do not know how to express, we do not know how to engage, we do not know how to live amongst each other. And the things that we still have to value as our heritage we win. And as I'm sorry, I forgot your name. As she said, right now, if you try to express yourself on social media, the things that social media do, they doom our heritage. So everything that we are, everything that expresses us, everything that describes us is lost into just thin air. So I really do not understand what kind of heritage are we leaving for our future generations because as we are already losing it. So yeah, thank you.
Very important question. There was a hand that side, then there's one at the back before we respond.
No, thank you very much. Hey, Mrs. Indonio. No, my understanding of heritage is basically on cultural and indigenous knowledge preservation and the freedom to be allowed to express yourself without any restrictions. The institutions of higher learning, I believe, should be part of that discussion. But then it's something completely different here. We are being made alien to our own cultures, etc. At the residences where we live, we're not allowed to burn incense. The moment that I burn impepo, it's being confused from someone smoking a hookah pipe, etc. And other thing is that understanding that we are people from different cultures, the institution somehow does not accommodate that to the degree that it should be. We have in the South African, African indigenous spirituality, there are people with calling, and then there's a certain mannerism that you will to expect from them, that which the institution will find very foreign. And the policies are contrary to us being able to practice our heritage. For an example, there is something called other people would obviously require professional mental health therapists, etc. And for an example, when you've missed an exam, you will to provide a sick note, etc. The only heritage that is being preserved is that of Western heritage, that I have to provide a sick note of which my sickness are not only confined to these clinical sicknesses, wind, etc. So that's part of the things that the institution is not speaking to. And the last time I recall that something very close to heritage was being spoken to was by the EFFSC when it said in this election manifesto that there should be a recognition of indigenous and sick notes from traditional healers that are not necessarily registered under the HPCA, because I do not need a degree for me to be a traditional doctor, etc. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I had recognized a hand at the back, and then we can come back. Okay, you can start here, just for flow.
No, it's fine. If there's someone at the back, they can get it first. I asked late anyway, so it's fine.
No, go ahead.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, my name is Shay, and during my undergrad, I did anthropology of culture. And during my studies, it was a bit interesting because obviously I'm colored, I identify as colored, I have a colored parent, and to me, personally, heritage means building up from resilience. As previously you mentioned, we were taken from one place and put in a different place, all jumbled up together, and we basically had to invent a culture from the bottom up, basically having nothing. So, especially moving to Cape Town, I'm not from Cape Town, I don't have the basis of culture that you would have in Cape Town, but there's so many things that we share across cultures. We've all come together, like we share languages. There are songs that I know that I wouldn't know if I wasn't, in this culture that I didn't learn when I was at home. I only learned it when I moved to Cape Town. I learned about these certain foods that I knew about, but I didn't get to eat when I wasn't in Cape Town. So it's just to me, heritage means coming together and resilience, and just like sometimes culture isn't something that you're born with, it's something that is made within a community. So yeah, that's my understanding of heritage.
Yeah, culture is made. There was a hand at the back. It's that side. It's that gentleman over there.
Is it you?
No. Right there in the corner. Yes.
Okay. It wasn't on purpose. I couldn't see you.
Thank you. My name is Sandy Sanyonso. I'm a law student. No, my understanding of heritage, in fact, I think I'll start with the Google dictionary of the explanation provided by Google. It says something that is handed down from the past as a tradition. That then means that one could have an understanding in which heritage is essentially intrinsically linked with history and intrinsically linked to the land, which is my point of departure. I have a problem now because we are told to celebrate Heritage Day when the heritage of black people in the country has been land dispossession, when the heritage of black people in the country has been black people living in squalor during apartheid. Now we're told, no, things have changed, we must celebrate that change. How do you steal something from someone and then saying, you'll be fine, man, just try and celebrate that you lost this thing? Yeah. So this is the problem that I have with even the celebration of heritage in this country. Yeah. Celebration of heritage in this country is one that omits very crucial and critical information in this celebration of heritage. My celebration of heritage should be celebrating that the Xhosas fought against the Boers. It should be a celebration that the Zulus fought against the Boers. That's what you should be telling us. You should not be telling us about that has been some songs or languages that were spoken in the past. No, we must always address the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is land dispossession. Heritage is intrinsically linked with the land. How do you then tell someone to live and try to exist without a crucial component of themselves? So if you want us to actually celebrate heritage sufficient and efficient, then you must give us back our land. We must be given our land so that we can be able to practice. Because the land isn't just some soil or some tangible thing. No, it's also abstract. There's a lot that connects us to the soil, because that's where our forefathers lie. So we are telling us now that my father, there's been instances of this in this country, where in a lot of these farms here, there's people who were buried there. people's ancestors are buried there. So you're telling me that my parent was buried here, but even though my parent was buried here, you are going to plant your things there in my land. And then you'll tell me that no, we must celebrate Heritage Day because of where we've come from. Where did we come from? You do not want to also clarify where we come from, because the problem is that there's no clarification. People think that, apartheid, something that happened. Yeah, it happened, move on. It doesn't work like that. If you want me to move on, bring me back my land.
Okay, thank you. Just pause with the roaming mic for a moment, so that we don't take too many things that we can't consume at the end, right? So obviously a university is a place for the contestation of ideas. There will never be harmony or synergy at all levels within discourse in higher education. And it's important that we create spaces like this, safe spaces for honest dialogue with the intention of growth and development for all that are entering into the conversation. So thank you so much for your inputs. I'm going to ask my panelists if they want one last bite at the cherry, just a 1 minute closure, and then we'll bring the session to an end. Thank you.
1, 2. All right, I think on my behalf, I think what is fundamental to academia is the uncovering of the truth. And I think, as one of our audience members said, we should understand that one of our fundamentals as a country is also our freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And therefore, in uncovering our heritage, people must be allowed to speak the truth and to speak what they know to be true. And so there should not be our apartheid type censoring. There should not be a bashing of ideas, but it should be a space. Academia should fundamentally, I believe, be a space where we can express ourselves freely. And in that free expression, we will uncover our heritage. I really just love that point of freedom of expression, because I believe it undergirds the research that we do is to uncover the truth, and we do so by being able to speak freely. Because when we get to speak freely, we get to think freely. And when we think freely, I believe we can really change the discourse and also change the landscape. So also thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, I guess, because I'm the lady, I'll speak last. But I think for me, what is mostly important is doing your own discovery and doing your own research. I think what we mostly speak on is what we've been fed on by the system, and we never question it. We are okay taking it as it is, and we actually start becoming even more activist of it compared, you find us becoming activist of something that we don't even understand its deepness, its rootness, and how far it goes. Especially when we speak about heritage, because we might find ourselves bashing something like Prof was saying, that we don't even understand. So I think for me, as much as freedom of speech is quite important that we must exercise, but it's also important that when we're exercising it, we don't undermine someone else's freedom of speech. Because we might think we are being activists, but we're actually silencing a minority that was trying to speak out loud. So your voice of being loud must not be a voice of someone who's silenced to diminish that voice, because that's what makes our heritage to be lost in transition, because our activist takes that as part of fighting battles, but not as a way of promoting a certain culture and a certain practice. So I think a takeaway from that is that we must understand our diversity and our uniqueness in itself, but what we don't understand, instead of bashing it, instead of persecuting it, baby, take it upon yourself to say, I am Ezulolwe Tulutuli gonna discover what deepness it comes from. Prof spoke about Shaka Day. That is actually the day we celebrated on the 24th. It's not Heritage Day, but it's Shaka Day. But over the years, it was changed. So before we even engage that, we need to understand why was it called Shaka Day, right? For yourself and for, especially as an academia, as a student, it's important that you do a ground research, then have an active voice based on what I know but not what I have been told, and that is something I'm standing by and transferring about. So thank you so much for having us here, for having me. I think I've learned quite a lot in terms of inheritance and what it means, but I think a takeaway home from myself is, as academians, as those that are entrusted, as like the lady says, we're a confused generation. So let us not pass down the confusion, but let's pass down answers that are raw, that are truth. But the truth is always based on the one that is experience and it's shared, lived experience, but not what we hear and what we have learned. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you to SANORD and the University of the Western Cape for hosting this panel.
Wow, thank you so much. That was intriguing, and I can feel the energies in the room. The young people's voices are coming out, and that's beautiful. Thank you so much. So maybe to the panel, I think you summed it up very nicely, you know, the future that we want, the kind of heritage that we want to leave behind. I think all of your closing remarks summed that up to say, we should understand that our differences should not divide us and respect that each one of us is unique. Prof said, I am because you are. So every ideas that come, we must also take time to think and reflect and see the different sides and refuse to walk with one mind to say, this is who I am, this is where I stand. If you take time to learn about other people, why do they speak the way they do? Why do they believe the things that they do? You get to have a heart that is accepting, and you are able to live together in harmony and peace. We have a future, we have a past rather, of division. So I think the heritage that I would love for us to leave behind, it's a heritage of unity, and I think we are on the right track. It's good to have different views, and in those differences, we come together and get to say, okay, I hear you, I got you. So we are come to the end of our program. Wow, it didn't even feel like, how long was it? Okay, so you all were counting. I was not, you didn't tell me. Okay, all good. So as we go towards the end of the program, I would like to invite our colleagues from the SANORD Central Office. As I said in the beginning, that the SANORD Central Office, it's based at UWC, but SANORD is made up of different institutions in the Nordic region and the South region, right? So, but the central office is here. In that office, there are two ladies that work so hard to bring us together, as this is one of the programs that was organized by the SANORD Central Office. I would like to call upon Ms. Nicole and Ms. Kelly to do the closing, and yeah, thank you.
While my colleague Nicole steps up, I would just like to thank her for arranging this wonderful program for us. And then as I sit in this room and I think about heritage and what it means, and I see different cultures, races, religions, genders, and I feel so proud just reflecting on the panel discussions and so inspired by the group of people we have here today. And I would like to encourage these kind of discourses where so in SANORD what we like to do is to bring our young scholars and give them a platform where they can communicate, interact, and learn from established researchers. And I think one of the most important things about our heritage is that we need to ask ourselves, what does heritage mean to us? And I loved all of the answers that came out of this today, but what I want to remind us of is to dig deep and to think about what it means for us. So in SANORD, we have this saying where we say, each one teach one. And if you look at our logo as well, it's about bridging the gap between the North and the South. But not only the North and the South, we need to look at our neighbors sitting right next to us, and we can all learn from one another and express what heritage means to us. So I would like to thank our panelists that were here today, It was wonderful, inspirational, and I think you've started a conversation among us here today. Nicole, thank you so much for the wonderful program you've put together. Thank you to our Master of Ceremonies. And I think next time we need to give you a buzzer. But thank you so much for this wonderful program. Thank you to the choir. You guys were exceptional. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. It's wonderful that you took your time to come and join us today. This goes to show that this is, in fact, an important discussion and dialogue that we need to have every day. It's a pity we don't have much time, but probably we'll continue after today, when we go home, when we speak to our friend, when we speak to our mothers, and take discussions deep and reflect. Indeed, what is Heritage Day? What is it? What does it mean? Is it just another holiday? Or is it, I mean, the main purpose of it was a national building. Is it serving its purpose? Is it Heritage Day significant as it's supposed to be? Is it to everyone or to you yourself? So I want to encourage you, when you go back to your residence, home, where you live, to not let the discussion stop here. Continue to dig deep. Ask your neighbor, ask your classmate, your roommate, what is heritage, and be open to learning what does heritage mean to my neighbor, not just what it means to you, but what does it mean. And we need to use our diversity and uniqueness to our advantage. We need to leverage it and use it to create a better heritage that we want to live for the future. So in closing, we want to thank you for making time to come and have this conversation with us, and we encourage you to go on and continue the discussions with everybody that you encounter, and as we continue to learn and seek new knowledge. Thank you.
And then from our office, we would just like to leave you with this quote from Archbishop Desmond Tutu. It's called Ubuntu, and Ubuntu is the essence of being human. Ubuntu speaks particularly about the fact that you cannot exist as a human being in isolation. It speaks about our interconnectedness. You can't be human all by yourself. And when you have this quality, Ubuntu, you are known for your generosity. We think of ourselves far too frequently as just individuals, separated from one another, whereas we are connected, and what you do affects the world. When you do well, it spreads out. It is for the whole of humanity. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, I'm also hungry, so we're wrapping up. Just one last thing. Nicole, are you going to come up? Should our panel members come up? Okay, I think Nicole has something for you guys. You may come to the floor, and she will do the presentation. And also, after that, would like to take a picture. Do you guys want to take a group picture? No? Yes? Okay. So we'll take a group picture, and from there, we'll get to be refreshed, and we'll get to network, right? So during the networking, ask your neighbor, what does heritage mean to you? It's that opportunity to also learn for your neighbor. Can we have the panel members come to the fore? Where's our moderator? Oh, here is. Nicole will take over from here. Thank you. Thank you. Who's taking the pictures? No one? Okay. Okay. Okay, they said this is for me. I'm joking. It's for the DVC. All right. All good. So this is it, you guys. So can we, the choir, give us a hot one as we come up, and let's take a group picture. And Nicole, where's the refreshments? Okay, so as we go out, there are some goodies for all of us outside, I'm told. So if you don't find the goodies, it's not me, I'm told. Okay, so can you guys come up? Let's take a picture together. Choir, you can give us a nice one. Thank you guys for coming, and enjoy the rest of your day.
world of connection and understanding. A world where cultures come together, where knowledge is shared, and where we all learn from one another. This is the world of SANORD. A collaboration of Southern African and Nordic universities. This is more than just research and innovation. It's about people. It's about creating relationships that last a lifetime, sharing knowledge that can change the world, and fostering understanding that can bring us all together. Join us as we work together to create a brighter future for all. Together, we can make a difference.